She's an amazing artist. Hello, VC, and all you other peeps out there. This is the show where I talk about the artists and other things musically that have helped make me who I am musically, the people that have influenced my musical life. Welcome to Influencers. I'm TC Kirkham, the Kirkham Report. Today's is an artist that I am going to spend a very limited part of the career on because while I have enjoyed everything since I stopped getting the records, I can listen to it on streaming, and the earlier stuff, there was one period that I really adored this particular artist. She was fantastic. There's only one way to describe her, and this is it.
Is Dolly Parton.
I am a huge fan of Dolly Parton, and I have been a fan of Dolly Parton since I first heard of her. Now, I've not gone back and gotten a lot of her older stuff. She started recording in the mid-'60s, and I have some of her biggest hits. I have a Best of Dolly Parton album from RCA that has, the hits that were earlier that I was not really that familiar with. But because my grandparents were, I've got terrible hair hanging out here. Because my grandparents were massive country fans, they listened to country music stations. It was listening to that station and the one that my mother listened to occasionally that I heard Jolene for the first time in 1973 when it came out, and fell in love with that song. Now, my wife hates that song. She's like, why in the world is she going out and begging her not to take her man? I would just slap her silly and tell her to get away from him. Anyway, I started becoming a fan of Dolly's around that time, and I bought Jolene as a single later, but I listened to it on the radio, and I had a little tape I'd made of it so I could listen to it. And then her variety show started in 1976 that lasted for one season, and I agree with her assessment of it later, where she said they had people on that she really didn't know, that they had fun doing them, but it really wasn't the kind of crowd that people she would want to watch would be watching, the country music crowd. That's when I first got to know a lot of her earlier music, and I Will Always Love You, which she had written for Porter Wagner, and Love Is Like a Butterfly, which was used as the theme song. I managed to find that first on a red label RCA back-to-back hits. I first became an unabashed Dolly fan in 1977 with the release of her first pop album, Here You Come Again. By the way, I want to say I'm sorry for the fan in the background. I couldn't stand it in here without it. It's hellishly hot up here. Here You Come Again marked Dolly's coming of age as a pop star. Now, Jolene and a couple of other songs had hit the end area of the Hot 100, like 60 below, earlier. Here You Come Again became a top 3 smash for her on the pop chart. I believe it was a number 1 hit on the country chart also. And this album also spawned Two Doors Down, which was also a pop hit and an AC hit as well, adult contemporary hit. And it's filled with great album tracks. She does a great job of the Cowgirl and the Dandy, which I knew as The Cowboy and the Lady a couple years before by Bobby Goldsboro, and Brenda Lee would have a hit with it as The Cowgirl and the Dandy in 1980 or 81. I love Sweet Music Man, which most people know Kenny Rogers' version. But she has this wonderful little song that was the flip side of Here You Come Again on this album called Me and Little Andy. It's just so sweet. I believe the third single was It's All Wrong, But It's All Right. It was limited to country success. This is just your regular, standard, run-of-the-mill RCA label and such. And Dolly was with RCA for well over 20 years. She started with Monument and signed with RCA, and most of the stuff I have is on RCA, and that was her peak period. Love that stuff. Played that album to death. But this one is still, to this day, it's a close tie for first place. 1978's Heartbreaker. This album blew my mind. Great shots of Dolly on the inside and on the back cover. And of course, Heartbreaker was a minor pop hit. I think it peaked at number 37 or something like that. But even bigger was Baby I'm Burnin', which not only was a huge hit on the pop chart, it became her first disco chart hit. First of several over the years. Not her biggest, ironically. I actually brought that up in today's Obscuria, where I played a song we'll talk about in a little bit. Another great single off this album was I Really Got the Feeling. Played that all the time. Again, this album, I Really Got the Feeling, It's Too Late to Love Me Now, We're Through Forever Till Tomorrow, Sure Thing, With You Gone, Baby I'm Burnin', Nickels and Dimes, The Man, Heartbreaker, I Want to Fall in Love, pure 70s Dolly at her absolute best. Love this album. I never did get it on CD. I've only had the vinyl, so it's great. And you can listen to that on streaming, of course, but it's not the same thing. Next up, 1979's Great Balls of Fire. This had some great singles on it. There were a couple songs on the album that were just kind of meh, but it's interesting. Again, the big hit off this was Sweet Summer Lovin'. It was a big country hit. It popped. I don't think it did that well on the pop chart. I know it did okay on the AC chart. But also Great Balls of Fire and You're the Only One were the singles off this. This has her version of the Beatles' Help. Now, this is one of those songs that a lot of people have recorded. I talked about this a week or two ago on the Carpenters' album tracks on Rank This. Help, I love their version. Dolly's is great too. Decidedly country version. But my favorite song on the album is a great little up-tempo poppy dancey song called It's Not My Affair Anymore. I loved this song. Loved this album. I'm not real crazy about a couple of the songs, but I like most of the album. And of course her remake of Great Balls of Fire was terrific too. Dolly was great at everything. Star of the Show, Down, You're the Only One, Help, Do You Think That Time Stands Still, Sweet Summer Lovin', Great Balls of Fire, Almost in Love, It's Not My Affair Anymore, and Sandy's Song. Again, top-notch Dolly all the way around. There's the gatefold. And again, this is just your standard RCA sleeve and label. But this was, Dolly was clearly going pop again with this one. Whereas Heartbreaker actually leaned a little bit more AC country. Great Balls of Fire was pure pop. 1980s was also aimed at a pure pop audience, even though the biggest hit off of it was a country smash called Old Flames, Can't Hold a Candle to You. Dolly, Dolly, Dolly from 1980. Loved her version of Starting Over Again. In fact, that song, written by Donna Summer and Bruce Sedano, I rewrote the lyrics that I'd hoped to use as our class song in 1981, but we couldn't find the sheet music anywhere, so we didn't get to do it, unfortunately. But it would have been fun. Same Old Fool, monster hit on the country chart. Old Flames, Can't Hold a Candle to You. You're the Only One I Ever Needed. Talk about that in a minute. Say Goodnight, Fool for Your Love, Even a Fool Would Let Go, Sweet Agony, I Knew You When, and Packing It Up. This is not quite as good as the last 2 or 3 albums, but it's still enjoyable. Dolly's cover of You're the Only One I Ever Needed, that song never became a major hit, even though it was recorded by a ton of people in the late 70s. It was recorded, the first place I heard it was by Cheryl Ladd. It's on her second album, I believe, Dance Forever. Loved her version. Willie Ames of Eight Is Enough cut a version for the soundtrack of Scavenger Hunt that is also really good. Willie did not get the attention he deserved as a singer. He was much better than people gave him credit for. And Dolly's version is top-notch, too, off this album. I also love Dolly's cover of I Knew You When, which I knew best by Donny Osmond, but it's an old song from the 60s. Overall, great. This is the first. I think this one actually has a sleeve. It does. This one has a great black and white picture of Dolly on the horse, and liner notes here. Standard RCA label, but fantastic. The album that's in a tie with Heartbreaker for my favorite is not going to surprise anybody, because it's one of her best albums ever. 1981's 9 to 5 and Odd Jobs. This came out right when 9 to 5 was coming out. It features 9 to 5, Dolly's first pop #1 hit. This album is gold from beginning to end. 9 to 5, Hush by Hard Times, House of the Rising Sun, Deportee, Sing for the Common Man, Working Girl, Detroit City, but You Know I Love You, Dark as a Dungeon, and Poor Folks Town. This album is awesome from beginning to end. And it led me to discoveries. I had never heard Deportee or knew about the story of what happened. It's subtitled Plane Wreck at Los Gatos. It is, I believe, a Pete Seeger song or a Woody Guthrie song. I forget which. Let me check, because it has the lyrics here. I had never heard that song before. And Woody Guthrie and Martin Hoffman. And I, being the disaster buff that I was, and this is an actual event, a bunch of migrant workers were killed in a plane crash, and everybody just kind of ignored it because of what it was, and that wasn't fair. 9 to 5, the biggest hit off the album. Working Girl, also a hit. But You Know That I Love You, a great remake of that song. But kick-ass House of the Rising Sun. This is Dolly full-on disco. And I'm surprised it didn't do better. The synth-heavy version, the best version of House of the Rising Sun I've heard, except possibly for a young singer named Dylan Zangwell. Dolly's version of House of the Rising Sun is mind-blowingly good. It hit number 77 on the dance chart. It was the flip side of 9 to 5, which is why it didn't chart on the pop chart. I adore that version. 9 to 5 and Odd Jobs from 1981. Terrific album. Now, the next two I didn't pick up until later when I found them in cut-up bins because I wasn't able to afford them at the time, but I did have the singles from them. Heartbreak Express from 1982, I believe. Single Women was the major single off this album, and it was not a bad song, and it's not a bad album. But again, after 9 to 5 and Odd Jobs, that was really hard to follow up, and it shows here. Dolly did write all but one song on the album. Heartbreak Express, two songs. Single Women was written by Michael O'Donoghue. Sorry. My Blue Ridge Mountain Boy, As Much As Always, Do I Ever Cross Your Mind, which I love. Release Me, the classic song. Barbara on Your Mind, Act Like a Fool, Prime of Our Love, and Hollywood Potters. The title track and Do I Ever Cross Your Mind are my favorite songs. And it is a good album. It's by no means is it not a good album. Great has to be 8 songs or better that I will listen to all the time. And unfortunately, there's some stuff on here that's just kind of forgettable. But I do enjoy the single, and I love Do I Ever Cross Your Mind, which is one of her originals. Next came the album that I think deserved better, and it's never done well with critics either. Dolly went full pop on this with a couple of country-esque songs. And she always hit the country chart, even with the pop stuff. Burlap and Satin from 1983. The sole single off of this was on Today's Obscuria, Potential New Boyfriend. #1 hit on the Kirkham Report for 2 weeks in 1983. Loved that song. And I love this album. It's a very laid-back album compared to, later stuff. There's a couple of small up-tempo, AC up-tempo, country up-tempo, and there's a few leans toward the country and Appalachian memories. But the best track, the only single to come off of it, Potential New Boyfriend, she did quite a bit of this on her variety show in the 80s. Quite a few of the songs here. Again, lyric sleeve, typical RCA. They never did do a Dolly label or anything. And this is the last album I have on RCA. Now, I believe there's one in between. I'm not sure, but I later picked up this from the Record Club, and it was at the time her most recent album, and another one that's underrated, as this one is. I tended not to sell this short. It is underrated, and the songs are really beautiful, but it doesn't get really great notices from critics, and I'm sorry about that. And neither did Rainbow. Rainbow is a terrific album. This was her Columbia debut, and I really enjoy Dump the Dude, which is a cute little, advice song. And her duet with Smokey Robinson, I Know You by Heart, I will never figure out why that didn't become a major pop hit. Here's the album. It was very strange seeing Dolly on Columbia after years and years and years on RCA. But the album was top-notch as far as I was concerned. The River Unbroken, Could I Have Your Autograph, I Know You by Heart, Two Lovers, Everyday Hero, Dump the Dude, Screaming Hot, Red Hot Screaming Love, Saving It For You, Make Love Work, and More Than I Can Say. Terrific stuff on this album, and it did sell well. It didn't produce many hits, and by this point, the pop chart was kind of ignoring her again. Now, I do have 2 albums on CD. I have White Limousine, which is, that might have been the first Columbia, actually. A great album with some really great stuff on it. And I have Something Special, which was her return to RCA, I believe, in the 1990s, which I got for her incredible duet version of I Will Always Love You with Vince Gill. I also have the soundtrack from The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, where Dolly does Hard Candy Christmas, and another version of I Will Always Love You, and some other stuff with Burt Reynolds and the rest of the cast. Great album. The movie was funny as hell. It deserved better than it got from the critics. I thought it was a riot. My mom thought it was a riot. And I have other odd singles of it, including Straight Talk from the movie Straight Talk, which I loved that movie. I thought she and James Woods had great chemistry together. It didn't do well with critics. It didn't do well at the box office, but it was a good movie. Rhinestone, unfortunately, I do have a single from Rhinestone. Dolly and Sylvester Stallone. Man, that was a mistake. I have listened to a lot of her more recent stuff that is available on Spotify. I'm not going to go over them all because I don't own them, and I can't show them to you. But she released an album in... I got to look this up to make sure I have the right album, so excuse me for just a minute. Because like I said, I do not own these. I only stream them. One of these days I'll get around to buying them, I'm sure, but she did an album in, I believe it was 2000. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. White Limousine was the album after Rainbow. I do have that one also. As I mentioned, she did an album for, let me see if I can find it here. I'm looking at Wikipedia. Is this the right one? She's done several bluegrass albums. in the late 90s and early 2000s. And the one that blew my mind, that's it, I think. Let me see. No, that's the mainstream one. Okay, I've heard that one. But that's not the one I'm talking about here. I don't remember which album it's on. But her bluegrass cover of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven freaking blew me away. I'm not a big fan of that song. I'm not a fan of Zeppelin overall. I like a few of their songs. But Stairway to Heaven has always been one of the most overrated songs of all time in my life. I mean, the guitar work is fantastic, but the song itself, meh. Sorry, guys. You know, I'm a pop guy, remember? I don't do the classic rock stuff that much. Dolly, I mean, completely blew my mind with her version of that song. Number one, I never would have expected it to come out of her. Number two, I never would have expected it to sound that well done as a bluegrass number, which blew me away. Only Dolly Parton could conceive of that. Going back for a minute, since I pulled it up here, White Limousine I have on CD, and it is from Columbia. The one thing I love about White Limousine is her cover of Don Francisco's He's Alive. I first saw her do that on the Dolly Show, and oh my God. She was really... That song was fantastic. I didn't really care for her kind of countrified version of Time for Me to Fly from REO Speedwagon, but I did like Why'd You Come In Here Looking Like That, which was a big hit. And her version of He's Alive, which is about the resurrection of Christ, is phenomenal. It's the best version anyone's ever recorded. And if you haven't heard it, seek it out. Because Dolly just makes it her own entirely. I like Dolly immensely as an actress as well. 9 to 5 was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. She had great chemistry with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda and Dabney Coleman, and it was just terrific. The TV series, not so much. Although it had a great cast. Valerie Curtin. I always do that. Rita Moreno and Rachel Dennison, Dolly's real-life sister, as Dora Lee in the series. The series only lasted a couple of seasons. I wasn't terribly enamored with it, and it could have been better. And, of course, later on, Leah Ayres was on, replacing, I think, Valerie Curtin. So, I don't know. It was an okay series, but the movie was awesome. And like I said, I liked Straight Talk. I thought it was better than most people give it credit for. And Whorehouse is a riot. I didn't see Rhinestone. I'm not probably ever going to see Rhinestone. Not that I have anything against Sylvester Stallone. I don't. His singing, however, I can live without. And having subjected myself to 2 Mamma Mia movies with Pierce Brosnan, I will not do that again. Seriously, Dolly, as an actress, has done all these Netflix movies. Sometimes she's in them, sometimes she just narrates them. And what a businesswoman she is. I mean, Dollywood is one of the most successful parks in America. It was, she bought it from Silver Dollar City and has made Pigeon Forge a true tourist destination. What I've seen, I've always wanted to visit Dollywood. I've never been down there. I'd love to go sometime. And I think that she is an inspiration to many women in particular, but everybody. Dolly has been, especially since the pandemic started, Dolly has been front and center. She donated $1 million of her own money to help develop the vaccine for COVID. She turned down the Presidential Medal of Freedom twice because of her ailing husband. She insisted that attempt to build a statue of her in Tennessee would not go forward. She even politely tried to decline the nomination for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but then when she realized that the fans were voting on it and that it really was about everybody, she rescinded that and agreed to be nominated, and she will be inducted this year. She was voted in, and it's an honor she deserves, alongside all the country music awards she's won. She's won several Grammys. She's an amazing artist, and I mean, people who don't give Dolly credit, because I mean, I used to get a kick out of her going on the Tonight Show and David Letterman, and those two, who are my favorite talk show hosts of all time, had a great rapport with Dolly, and Dolly didn't mind the jokes. She would joke right back with them about the size of her breasts or the size of her wig or whatever she was doing, and enjoying it and having a good old time doing it. I don't know that she'd do that in this day and age. I kind of doubt it, but you know, it was an easier time, and she had, she was comfortable enough with herself to do that. Now today, I don't think she'd do that. Today, she's a big, you know, not so much a spokesperson, but she's, you know, come down hard on some people doing crazy stuff during the Me Too years, and deservedly so. And she just deserves to truly be an icon for all eternity. Not just because of these singular albums. She's got a dozen or more prior to this, and plus another 10 or 12 with Porter Wagner, plus Islands in the Stream and Real Love with Kenny Rogers. I mean, and Lord knows how many duets she does. And Miley Cyrus as a goddaughter. That was, you know, pure neither here nor there. But in any case, I love this woman. This is one of my favorite pictures of her. And she is just an amazing talent, songwriter, singer, actress, philanthropist. She is everything there is in music. And if you take the time to listen to her, you might actually find yourself becoming a fan, even if you've never been one before. I helped make Kim a fan. She liked some of her songs, but she hated Jolene. Now she's heard more of her stuff, and she likes her better. And go over to streaming services if you want to, if you don't want to wait, you know, spend money on CDs or whatever to try her out. But give her a listen, particularly this 77 to 84 period with these great albums I've just highlighted, plus Islands in the Stream by Kenny Rogers later that year. She's an amazing artist, one of a kind, and still going strong. And Dolly, more power to you. Thank you for being an icon, for being one of my favorite artists, and being an influencer in my life, because I will always love you. Pun intended. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you like what you've seen. I'm running a contest to get to 200, but as of today, I made it! Yay! I'm at 202, so we're going to push to 225. Keep coming in, watch the contest video, enter it, and have a chance at winning some great prizes. It'll be running through August 14th, I think. And don't forget to check out all my shows every week, in addition to Influencers, which is normally up at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. I apologize for the lateness of it because I was ill last night and couldn't record it. I just had all kinds of stomach problems in this heat. Rank This every Thursday at 4. The Kirkham Report, Saturdays at 4. Pop Retro Countdown, Sundays at 4. And every day at 11 a.m., TC's Obscuria Vaults. New stuff, new factoids. One song, 5 minutes, and you will enjoy every second of it, I hope. I hope you'll continue and spread the word for me, too. And don't forget to leave a comment. I love talking to you, and I always will. And don't forget, this coming week, I will have one of our live shows over on Two Hip Chicks channel. Episode 8 of Finding Your Music Mojo, an hour of music talk with myself and my good friend Dawn of Two Hip Chicks, and it will be on the Two Hip Chicks channel this coming time, because they do evens and I do odds. Monday, July, what is that, 22nd? No, Monday, July 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern, so come over and join us there. For Influencers, I'm TC Kirkham, the Kirkham Report. Thank you for watching. Ciao, baby.